colleges scattered across the U.S. have seen an overall decline in enrollment and financial troubles. The 2018 survey of college and university presidents reported that nearly 1 in 8 college chief executives predict their own institution could fold or combine in the next 5 years.
I don't. I think that times are going to be tough for a while. And they've been tough before. And I think they have strategies and ways to manage through that for a period of time.
The Midwest, especially Iowa, is one of these regions that could be in danger. Just last year, 94% of colleges that closed in the U.S. hail from the Midwest.
In the farming, the agricultural Midwest, what you see is that populations in most of these states are aging, which means there are fewer and fewer young people graduating from high school.
But 5 or 6 years ago, marginal students who might not go to college, who didn't perform well in high school, went to college. And I don't think that's the case anymore. I think they now see that they have other options besides going to college. And there are lots of good jobs that are out there that they can go get, and they can start making money immediately. And so I think that's part of the reason, maybe, that we have a decline in enrollment.
Simpson College of Indianola, Iowa, has been forced to cut the positions of 9 teachers of 12 different academic programs due to financial issues.
Luther is down about 400. And I'm troubled by that because I wish them well. It's a fine school and a sister institution.
Colleges have realized that they can't solely rely on Iowa residents to fill their dorms. That is why they are developing new methods such as turning to out-of-state recruitment, in some cases out of the country.
So we've been around for 160 years. And the interesting thing, it was first established so that the founder originally said, I want our children to go to school locally. And we have continued that basic philosophy where individuals can get their degree locally, no matter where they're at, no matter what the situation might be.
Iowa is in the heartland and is home to 33 private colleges, 25 of which are nonprofit and a part of the Iowa Association of Independent Colleges and Universities, commonly known as IQ.
The focus now is simply on the Iowa tuition grant and getting that appropriation increased. We're sort of a database. We collect data, and not a lot, but we collect data that is going to be helpful or interesting or help presidents make decisions about what they're doing on their campuses. And so part of our responsibilities are those. But mostly our responsibilities are protecting and trying to increase the appropriation that the state provides for the Iowa Tuition Grant Program.
With tuition at an all-time high nationwide, many students opt to seek for jobs right out of high school rather than pay for their bachelor's degree. With money as the driving force behind these decisions made by students, the IAQ developed the Iowa Tuition Grant to alleviate the financial burden that comes with a college education.
Very helpful, but partly because it sends a message to legislators, to parents, to schools that private colleges are accessible and an important part of the higher education framework in Iowa. So it's an absolutely critical program.
In spite of these statistics, many higher-ups in the Iowa education system have not expressed the same sort of urgency or accepted the realization that there is an elephant in the room on the topic of colleges and enrollment in Iowa.
I can't speculate about closures in Iowa over the next several years. I don't anticipate any.
You know, these colleges have been in business for 150 years. So this is kind of cyclical. The more jobs that are, that come into the state, the more opportunities there are for people and families to move here. That'll change. It's always cyclical. But for right now, that enrollment decrease of high school graduates is a little frightening.
In order to not go under, schools have to explore and implement innovative ways to get students to attend their institutions. Upper Iowa and Wartburg College are just 2 of the 25 schools a part of the IAQ that are struggling. In the midst of the turmoil, these two colleges have found alternative means to attract students to their institution. Upper Iowa has had a long-standing relationship with remote learning.
I want to say in the 70s where we started with some self-paced programs. Self-paced programs where we basically offered those to folks that were in the military or deployed or wherever, where they could do correspondence programs. So to this day we still do that. Right along with that, in the 80s we started with establishing some centers, some locations, whether it's in Waterloo or whether it's in Madison or Milwaukee or Arizona. So we now have 26 locations around the 25 locations around the U.S. in 7 states where we are offering programs and education to adult learners primarily. Not the traditional students, but the adult learners. And then in 1999, we started up our online initiatives. And so online's grown. And so when you look at all the different modalities, when you look at here on campus, we have approximately 750 students here at the Fayette campus. We've got, as a total, about 3,000 students online. And then we've got students, another couple thousand that are at the locations, in the center locations. Some of those are on military bases, on 5 military bases. And then we even started, and we've had students located or locations in international places like Malaysia and Hong Kong.
So they have realized the disadvantage of being in Fayette and have used have been very aggressive and entrepreneurial in seeking students in other places and have done that successfully.
Wartburg College's solution to this problem is by putting more of an emphasis on out-of-state recruitment. The college's in-state population consists of roughly 60% of students coming from the homeland, with the other 40 or so coming from as far away as Japan.
We're changing the percentage of students at Wartburg from Iowa by about 1% per year. It's really interesting to watch. So it's like we drop about 1% per year. Not because we're trying to attract fewer Iowans, but because we're being more intentional about trying to attract students from elsewhere, from Arizona, from Texas, from Florida, from Hawaii, from Colorado, from Illinois. So we're trying to be more intentional about attracting students from elsewhere because we know that there aren't going to be enough high school students in Iowa forever to populate the student body.
Another saving grace of colleges' wallets is the donations by alumni and supporters. Rewind to the 80s. Upper Iowa was struggling and would have faced closure if it wasn't for David Bolger and his generous donation saving the college.
Well, that's interesting because I think at that time, so the story goes, it was 1 vote away from closure from the board. And throughout Upper Iowa's history, we've had many heroes and sheroes. It's when we have these folks who have really committed their lives to Upper Iowa University, and that's a great part of our history. And so David Bolcher was one of them. We have the Andrews family. We have many who have the Harms family. We have many who have really, they've committed their lives to Upper Iowa University and believe in it.
Upper Iowa is not the only college that has a Cinderella story. All colleges rely on donations, but many nonprofit colleges have been saved by generous donations when they need it most. Upper Iowa has found success in online learning. However, this type of learning could potentially have a negative effect on future donations. A Harvard professor found that most of the alumni donations were given because they admired a professor or coach. He said it was an individual member of the faculty who had changed their lives. Wartburg and Upper Iowa have quite different approaches to keeping their doors open, but there is a universal similarity between the two. They both have found the answer to their problems lies beyond state lines. While it is unsure what the future holds for private education in Iowa, one truth is that colleges must take innovative action to ensure that their dormitories get filled every year.
But we need to make sure we're getting the growth that we have planned for and that we have invested in.